The police are now saying that they believe Ann Widdecombe was attacked sometime around 12:30 p.m. on Wednesday. Her body wasn't found in her house until 11:40 a.m. on Thursday morning. So there's around a 24-hour period where they believe Miss Widdecombe was on her own. It's then been led to a police, manhunt that led to the arrest of a 26-year-old white male who was then released. And now the police are sort of almost back to square one in still searching for a suspect.
Let's start the show today with the latest on the manhunt for the killer of former Conservative Minister Ann Widdecombe. And I have to say, this is just, it was sad enough to hear about her passing, and of course we paid tribute to her yesterday, but now to have, and the news just broke as I was coming off air and Kathy Newman was coming on air yesterday afternoon, that this was now a murder and the police were looking for a suspect, and which is just so horrific. And I just think back to my own time. I spent quite a lot of time, knew Ann Widdecombe pretty well. She'd come on my show many times, but I often did panel shows with her, and she was a bit scary to go up against because, my goodness, she was a ferocious debater. She was a very excellent debater, very, very strong, very, very spirited. We obviously didn't agree on lots of things, but we always had a very good debate, and she was always incredibly nice to me and incredibly kind to me in the green room, and before and after debate she would ask me a lot about how I found politics and all of that type of thing. So I did have a lot of time. Again, disagreed with her on many, many different views, but that's okay. You're allowed to disagree with people. So it is really horrible news. Now, Devon and Cornwall police say that they're searching for a white male, and have also revealed that the attack took place on Wednesday lunchtime, around 24 hours before Anne was found dead at her home on the edge of Dartmoor. A 26-year-old man was arrested yesterday on suspicion of murder, but he has since been released. Well, let's now speak with Will Humphries. Will is the Times' South West correspondent who's in the village of Hayter. Will, thanks very much for joining us.
Hi there.
So just take us through the timeline of events as you currently understand them.
Yeah, so as you said, the police are now saying that they believe Ann Widdecombe was attacked sometime around 12:30 p.m. on Wednesday. Her body wasn't found in her house until 11:40 a.m. on Thursday morning. So there's around a 24-hour period where they believe Miss Widdecombe was on her own. It's then been led to a police, manhunt that led to the arrest of a 26-year-old white male who was then released. And now the police are sort of almost back to square one in still searching for a suspect.
And are investigations still continuing at the scene, at the house?
They are. Teams of police have been searching the sides of the roads throughout the morning and afternoon. And Nigel Farage, the leader of Reform UK, has actually arrived in the area this afternoon and spoken with reporters. He said that Reform have been scouring their emails to look for any threats that were made to Ann Widdecombe in those emails, and they've been working with police to try and help, any lines of inquiry that they can help with.
And what's Nigel Farage's sort of message? Because, of course, I presume he has to be careful because this is an ongoing investigation and we don't know what the motive is at this stage.
No, and some of the things he has been saying to reporters, I'm not sure we are able to report because this is a live criminal investigation, and some of the things he said could, cross over a threshold of maybe talking about motive and things. But he has said that he's very worried that if this was an attack in the middle of the day, he has grave worries about that being a possible burglary or not, which was kind of inquiry the Times was told the police were following.
Right, okay, but as you say, this is a live investigation, so you've got to be very careful about what we say. And what's the mood like in the village at the moment? What kind of place is it?
It's a very small village on the edge of Dartmoor National Park. It's utter shock in the village. It's a very quintessential country village. It has a nice pub and and lots of detached houses. Quite a lot of elderly live there. Quite a few live on their own. So it's a worrying time for people when one of their neighbours has been attacked alone in their home.
And is there any, do we know what the crime rate is like there in terms of, is it, are these kind of, do burglaries happen a lot?
It's local council has said, the kind of crimes they get around here are fly tipping on the side of a road, perhaps. But, nothing much more than that. It's a very low crime rate. They're near a few market towns where, crimes may happen a bit more often, but the village of Haytor is normally a very quiet and peaceful place.
And, I presume there's a lot of media presence there.
Yes, there are reporters from most of the major outlets around the country.
And look, in terms of when the police, made their announcement, from the kind of media management of it, from the police's point of view, how do you think they've sort of managed that? It is difficult to do it from the police point of view, but tell us, talk to us a bit about that.
Well, the police have, been issuing statements. What was interesting yesterday afternoon is they had announced that a police press conference would be taking place at 4:30 p.m. And that was delayed repeatedly until about 5:30 p.m. I understand now that was happening because the arrest of a 26-year-old man was taking place, at the time when they were due to go and make their statement. So everything got held back.
Right.
So, it's a fast-moving investigation. The police say they are, having to move at pace to try and solve this. And, the arrest and then release of a suspect is not unusual in a murder investigation. And it's just something that, happens. And they are now moving on and trying to find a suspect.
OK, well, look, Will, thanks very much for that update. That's Will Humphries, who's the Times of South West correspondent. Scott's message in saying Ann Widdecombe's murder is a horrific event. Her family and friends are in my thoughts, but that aside, I will not canonise a woman who held hateful views. And Scott just said, she was very, very homophobic and anticipated a time when science could cure gay people. Well, I think you can hold both of those thoughts in your head at the same time. You can sort of think, I absolutely despised a lot of her views and I didn't agree with it, and you can also just think this is absolutely awful on a human level. You can disagree with somebody but also on a human level sort of not want them, that kind of ending. Really, I think we are capable of holding those two things. I don't think we're canonised. I don't think that's accurate to say we're canonising her. I think she was a prominent figure in politics, whether you liked her or not. It's a bit like when Margaret Thatcher died or Norman Tebbit died. These were sort of big figures, controversial figures. I didn't agree with their sort of politics, but you can sort of reflect on their lives and also think, gosh, they met a horrible end, without necessarily canonising them